Hey, welcome back. It's Shireen with another Adobe Illustrator quick tip. This time it's just how to create a clipping mask to fill your flats with an image. Maybe it's an image of a texture or a fabric, but you don't have a seamless repeat, or you are not able to create a tile that you can drag in under your swatches. So I do have other videos about how to work with swatches and filling your flats. So definitely check those out. But for this one, this is when you have an image that's not in repeat. Clipping mask is the way to go. But I'm going to show you a couple tricks to get the best results. So in the case of this skirt, what we need to know about a clipping mask is that there needs to be one masking object, and then there's also the contents that goes into that object. But in the case of the skirt, there's like the left side and then there's the right side. And pay attention, they're both closed paths, okay? So making sure they're not open paths. So I'm going to try to get these two paths to act like one path. That's called a compound path. Um, and before I do that though, actually, just for good measure, you're going to notice me, I shift clicked it to add. I'm going to go ahead and do a copy and paste. I just want to have an extra copy, and you're going to see why all the way at the end. So I just have this sitting on the side and waiting for me. So I want to create these as a compound path so that I can mask, use them both as the clipping object, one object. So it's going to be a compound path, just like when you say do not, those are two words, but when you say don't, they become one word. So these are two paths, but when I shift click to add and right click, make compound path, they're going to act like one path. There's still two paths, but they're going to act like one path, so we can use them to create our mask. So let's get started. I'm usually going to try to always to make sure that I have a piece of the quote unquote the fabric or the image that's not too much larger. There's no point to have really heavy images and you're just using a small part of it. So always make sure you're just using what you need. And I'm going to go ahead and set that to the back. Right click to send that to the back like that, because that's the masking, that's the contents that's going into the skirt. So the skirt is above, select that, and you see I only had to select it once. Now they're both being affected because they're acting like a compound compound path. And then I'm going to shift click to add the skirt. So now this is the relationship of the clipping mask. I can do a right click and say clipping mask. And that's it, right? So I have both sides. There's this path and this path. They acted like one path. I'm able to put them together. And the trick that I did was that I kept this extra, you see how I lost the attributes, right? Because I made a clipping mask. So every time you use a clipping mask, you'll lose the attributes of the object that you've created the clipping mask from. But if I do this, here's a little trick. I could take off the white fill. So now there's just a black outline. And if I just take that black outline and stick it right on top, there we go. Let's get it right into place. I'm using my arrow keys to nudge everything into place. What do you think? I've got that nice outline. I've got that image of the batik fabric, right? And I think, yep, there it is. I still have those energy lines, those extra lines that I drew to kind of draw a little bit of that character of the fabric. And that's it. So that's how I use a clipping mask. So it's a trick that I kind of showed in terms of like, keep an extra copy, because if you just want to plunk those outlines on, take off the fill, just use them for the stroke. And so basically you have like these extra pieces that are acting like the stroke on top of the clipping mask. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with. But don't forget, when you're done, select everything and group, definitely, because then you're going to have all these pieces and masks and outlines and group it all together. You should be good to go. So this again too, if I had, let's say for example, a front and then another sleeve and then another front, another sleeve, I would just select them all and make them a compound path so that they can all together become the clipping object. Now this is not going to work all the time. There's definitely some complex relationships in Illustrator depending on how you made the artwork, depending on the actual, the actual paths that you created. So it might not work 100% of the time, but often this is a really great trick for you to get the effect that you want. Okay, so I hope that helped, and let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comments below. If this was helpful for you, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll keep working on more videos. All right, good luck.